Here is an interactive chart that you can create in Excel. This chart is connected to these slicers here. So when you pick different values in the slicer, the chart will automatically update. So in this video, I will show you how to create this chart from scratch. This is the dataset that we will use to create the interactive chart. This dataset is about sales records of different items, the countries those items were sold in, sales channel, so whether the sale was online or offline, order date, ship year, ship month, and then we have total revenue, total cost, and total profit. Now for this activity, we will use columns item type, sales channel, and the last column, which is total profit. Now the first step in creating the interactive chart is to actually create a pivot table. But before we create a pivot table, it is very important to convert this data into an Excel table. And I have a video on that where I discuss how pivot tables should be created and the right way to create pivot tables. So I encourage you to see that video as well. So let's first convert this data into an Excel table. For that, I will go to Insert, Table, and Excel will automatically select the range of the dataset. You just need to make sure the range is correct and just say OK. And this is now an Excel table. Now, before I create the pivot table, let's go to Sheet 1 and let's just set the background as white. So we will fill this with white color. And for that, I will just click here in this corner and let's select theme color. And we would like to pick white. So this is now just white background here. All right, let's go back to the tab here. So we have our Excel table. The next step is now to create a pivot table. So I'm going to assume you know how to create a pivot table. So I will do this quickly. So we will go to Insert, Pivot Table, and I will create it in this existing worksheet here. And let's just create it somewhere here. Now for the rows, let's pick item type. For column, sales channel, and for the values, profit. And this time, instead of sum of the total profit, let's click this drop down here, click value field settings, and let's select average. So we would like to see average profit here. All right, so this is our pivot table. So here are the item types, sales channel, and then the values here represent average profit. Let's now do some basic formatting. So let's first format these values here. So I can click anywhere here in these values, then right click, then click number format. And then here I will click on currency and let's remove all decimal places and we will include the dollar sign here and click OK. So now you see dollar figures here. Now, one other format that I want to do right now is click anywhere here on item type, then right click, field settings, then click on layout and print. And then I will check mark this show items with no data. So what this will do is if there are any items where there are no values for total profit, so instead of excluding that item from the pivot table, this item will actually show here with a $0 profit. So we don't want to exclude any items from the pivot table. And then one last formatting that I would like to do, I can click here, right click, and then pivot table options. And then here, there's a option here for empty cells show, and then here I will put 0. Okay, so any empty cells, instead of seeing a blank cell, we will see a $0 value. The next step is to add a slicer to this pivot table. And with the slicer, we will be able to filter this data using other columns in the data set. So to add a slicer, I will go to pivot table and then I will click on insert slicer. And here, let's actually add 2 slicers. So I will select month and ship year. Okay, and then I will put these slicers here next to each other. Okay, and now if I click on any of these values here for the year, you'll see that the data will get filtered to show the average profit for that year. And then if I can similarly, I can select a particular month here. So I can select June and it shows the profit for June. If I want to select multiple values, I can hold the control key and I can select say 14, 15, and 16 here. And we can do May, April, and March. And then I will release the control key and that will update the data to show average profit for the values in this filter here. All right. So now that I have this set up, let's go back to selecting all of the years. So for that, I can just select 2010 and then hold the shift key and just select the last year here that you can see. And that will select all of the years here. And then similarly, I can do the same thing for months. Okay. And then release the shift key. And that updates the data. So now next, what I would like to do is let's do some background colors to make sort of like a nice graphical interface kind of a look. So for that, let's color from starting here. We can just color all of this. Give this some color. So let's give it a color blue maybe. And then we'll color all of this here. Then do the same here. And then I'll just do all of it. Okay. All right, so the background color is done, and this just makes the interactive chart look neat when it's finally working at the end. All right, so now it's time to insert a chart. And so for the chart, what I'm going to do first is let's select this data here. All right, and then I will go to insert. And then here, let's add a bar chart. And we will add a 2D column bar chart, this one right here. And what this will do is it will create the chart for you. And I will resize it here so that it looks like that. And let's zoom out a little bit so that we can see all of the GUI. So here, all right. So this is a 2D bar chart. As you can see on the y-axis, we have the average profit. On the x-axis, we have items. And then the blue bars are offline, items bought offline. And the orange bar is items bought online. So now that we have the chart set up, let's make some edits to the chart so that it looks better. And here we will adjust the axes. We will add labels. So let's adjust the column here a little bit. And let's click on this chart. And when you click on it, you'll see that these two options will pop up. Let's click on this plus sign. And here, let's check mark this, access titles. And let's check mark chart title. So you'll see that the titles here will show up. And here we can say average profit by item and sales channel. The title here will be item type. Here it will be average profit. And we can adjust the size for the font here. So let's make this 18 and bold. And let's make this one, say, 12. And then this one will be 12 as well. The chart is almost ready. It is already interactive because it's tied to this pivot table, and the pivot table is tied to the slicers here. So if I just select any of these values in the slicer, you'll see that the chart will update, which is good. However, you'll notice that when you select different years and months, the chart is updating, but the y-axis, the maximum value here is also changing. These values are dynamic, so they're adjusting to the chart here. And we would like to freeze the y-axis so that it doesn't change. And let's now click on these values here in the y-axis. When you click on it, it will open up the options for format axis. And here, let's select this value here. So let's pick a maximum on the y-axis to 1.6 million. All right, and then we can leave the major and the minor axes as is, or you can edit these as well. But now if you change the values here on these slicers, you will notice that the y-axis is not going to be dynamic anymore. And let's now close this format shape option, and let's color all of this area, all of this here. Same color, and do the same here. Okay, and this is the interactive chart. So again, I can just pick any of these values and the chart updates.